Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about how to prepare for away rotations, specifically using the VSLO software. So let's just jump right into it. So when should we do away rotations? So the best time to do away rotations is in the beginning of M4 year, preferably before ERAS opens up if possible, because you want the institutions that you're going to apply to with ERAS to have an idea of who you are before you actually send in your application. You want them to have an idea of your name or have somebody have brought, you up in their system, in their circles, before they start weeding through applications. At the latest though, you want to try to be done with your away rotations by October/November, depending on the specialty that you're going into, because different specialties have different interview peak times. So make sure for your specialty to research the interview peaks, like which months most interviews are happening. So for example, my specialty in internal medicine, we had more of our interviews in late November and all of December. So I wouldn't have wanted to do an away rotation or any rotation during that time. And then other people for their specialties had their peak season of interviews during January. So you want to avoid having away rotations, especially away rotations during interview season. And the reason for this is because when you ask for a lot of time off, like to do interviews, and you're doing it away, it actually reflects poorly on you. You would think that it would be understood, oh, it's interview season, this person is doing interviews, but actually that's not how it's seen at all. Instead, it looks like you aren't engaged to do the work that is required of you as part of the rotation. And programs and specialties get very frustrated when students schedule the rotation during a peak interview time. It's seen as very disrespectful, and no attending or clerkship director wants to feel like their specialty is not being seen as a priority to the students doing the rotation. So what's some general information about away rotations? So one of the first things that I want you guys to know is that if you do get rejected from an away rotation, it does not mean that you're going to get rejected from an interview. So do not let it discourage you from applying to that same residency program for your residency applications on ERAS if you want to go there. A reason why you may have been rejected from the away is just that maybe that away for the time slot that you're indicating, they only had a few spots and they already filled those spots up. Just don't take it too personally. You also need to know that doing an away at an institution does not guarantee you an interview. Granted, it can increase your chances of getting an interview, and oftentimes you do get a courtesy interview at the end of the away rotation, kind of like an exit interview kind of, but an actual formal ERAS interview may or may not come, and you don't know if that's going to happen before you do your away. If you're applying to residency programs outside of the general region in which you live and where your medical school is located, consider doing an away rotation, because it is important for students to show interest in the program and willingness to move there if you did match there for residency. So this is important because residency programs don't like to give interview slots to people that they do not think are actually going to rank them highly enough to match. If you want a video about ranking strategies, just leave a comment below and I'll be happy to make one of those too. But another thought process is think about how much you're willing to spend on these away rotations. This basically depends on your priorities. So do you want to do an away rotation for the experience of just being outside of the hospital system that your school is affiliated with? If that's the case, then you don't really have to go so far away. And you can save money by living at home and commuting to that other health system that is in the same region where you live. But do you want to do an away rotation at a specific residency program so that it will help your chances of getting an interview there and hopefully help your chances of matching there? Well, then that is a different story, and you would definitely want to prioritize going to that place and paying the money that it costs to get a flight there and live there for the month in order to increase your chances of hopefully getting an interview and matching there. Just know that if you are paying for aways, the away locations do not provide financial assistance, or at least majority of them do not provide financial assistance or housing for students who are doing aways. So it's all on your dime to get your flight and get your housing for the month that you'll be there. So for example, I got the opportunity to do an away rotation in New York City, and I got the opportunity to do an away in California. And I ultimately decided to do the away rotation in New York City because I already live in New York City and I commuted there and paid, for an Uber to go there every morning, which was expensive, but it was more worth it to me to pay that money and do that experience closer to home than to fly all the way to California and pay for housing for a month, because the program itself was in an area of California that I wouldn't particularly want to move to if I were given my preference. So I chose not to do that. But I also applied for internal medicine, which is not as competitive of a specialty as some other specialties. I know someone else who was applying for dermatology, and they spent 3 consecutive months in a row going to different away rotations and spending the money for all of that time to travel between those places and to house themselves and to travel to the hospitals that they were rotating at in order to increase their chances of getting interviews. And ultimately they did match at one of the places that they did an away at. But dermatology is also a very competitive specialty. So what's the benefit of doing aways? Like, are they necessary? So doing an away rotation is not necessary for most specialties, but they are extremely useful for a number of other reasons. Doing an away allows you to experience what it's like being in different types of hospitals. For example, university hospital versus a community hospital. Doing an away in a different hospital system or in a different state can also teach you a lot about that area and about the culture in that system. More specifically, it can help teach you about if they're toxic or not. And it also exposes you to different types of electronic medical record systems. So after doing all of my rotations in 3rd and 4th year, I applied to residency programs that only had one specific type, the same specific type of electronic medical record system. And I got exposure to that system that I prefer to work with after doing a rotation outside of my school's hospitals, basically. Also, if you're undecided about the type of specialty that you want to do, which is totally normal, doing away rotations will allow you to look at different specialties that you're considering, like kind of back to back, or at least close enough together that you can compare them and have the thoughts about each of that specialty fresh in your mind as you do that comparison. And you can also use away rotations to get experiences that your school may not have for you to take. For example, in my school, we didn't have a built-in anesthesiology rotation. So granted, we could ask for one through the hospitals our school is affiliated with, but we could also do anesthesiology rotations outside of our hospital systems that our school is affiliated with using the VSLO. And some specialties, such as emergency medicine, require specific types of letters of recommendation. And so with a specialty like that, or specialties that require more than one letter in the same specialty, you may want to do at least one away so that you have multiple opportunities to shine within the same specialty and get letters of rec in that same specialty as well. Okay, so the last segment here. What do we do on away rotations to stand out? So one of the first things that you need to do to stand out is help make life easier for the residents and the attendings whenever you get the opportunity to do so. So for example, if you're doing a rotation that takes place in the OR, you can gather the OR materials after you see the resident do it so that you know exactly what they need and exactly how they do it. You also need to make sure that you're showing the residents and the attendings that you're taking ownership of your patients. One of the best compliments you can get is that the attending thinks that you're an intern or says, "Oh, I thought they were an intern." If you're doing your away rotation early on in your 4th year, like in the first block, for example, make sure that before you get into it, you practice giving your patient presentations because this is one of the major components where you're going to be evaluated. Now remember, in 4th year, there are no tests. It's all based off of how you perform in the hospital and the evaluations that you get from your residents and the attending on your team. So that impression that you make, especially when you're, organizing the presentation for your patient, is very important for that evaluation. You do want to give off the impression that you are enthusiastic to work there and do whatever they ask of you. If it's, "Oh, will you look up this topic for me and talk about it in the afternoon rounds tomorrow?" Yes, the answer is yes. I know it sucks, but it's only 4 weeks and this is your chance to make a lasting impression. Also, if your residents ask you to come hang out with them or spend time with them, that is a good opportunity for you to learn more about the program and also to show that you fit in with these residents on a social level where they actually would want to hang out with you outside of the hospital, which is important when residency programs are choosing new residents. just remember that you are still being evaluated, so you need to be, you can have fun, but just stay professional at the same time. If you need letters of recommendation from your away rotation, make sure that you're doing your away rotation at a place that gives good letters of recommendation. So ask people who match into your specialty if they would recommend doing an away there if you need a letter, because really this is more to find out about red flags. So if you hear that someone is saying don't do your away there because they don't write the letter on time, or they don't, take the time to actually write a strong letter of rec, listen to that information. That is very important information, especially if you're going into a competitive specialty. All right, guys, so that's all my advice about how to prepare for aways and about what to do when you're on the aways. If you have any other questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And if you want me to make any other types of videos on topics similar to this, please also leave it in the comments below. Thank you, and I hope you liked the video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!